Let's get started. Welcome to the show again, Dow.
Thank you, Avik.
Amazing. So, Dow, when you say that dark night of the soul, right? What did that actually look like day to day? Um, I'd say emotionally, physically, spiritually. What was the earliest signals that this wasn't a rough week, but a deeper crisis?
Well, it was just persistent grief that wouldn't shift,
Okay.
being stuck on the floor of the living room and not being able to get up for days or weeks on end, and just feeling like you're in an existential void, a pit of despair and hopelessness where you don't really see a way out. Um, where you lose interest in the basic things of life, like food and exercise, and sleep gets dysregulated, and you just feel this really deep hopelessness, because you feel like you've just lost so much and maybe made some mistakes that you wish you hadn't made, or decisions that put you in a dark space,
Yeah.
and not really seeing an easy solution to the way out.
Exactly, I totally agree. Also, like when you mentioned about this, right? That because what I was asking about the emotionally and physically and spiritually part, right? So, what do you think? What's the one gentle practice that you wish you'd had sooner for those 3 a.m. hours, like when anxiety is loud and logic is kind of quiet?
Well, a couple of things. First is focus on the basics, like sleep, diet, exercise. Even that's hard, just to get yourself out. To exercise is really important. Just to being able to get your body moving and get some
Mm.
adrenaline flowing, and force yourself. Any kind of physical exercise, whatever you're capable of doing, even if it's just getting up and going for a walk and forcing yourself to being in nature helps a lot. Getting yourself into some natural settings where you can, and then being able to have a mindfulness practice, some sort of contemplative practice that you can fall back onto. And I had one, but I sort of abandoned it, and it was hard. And so being able to go back to having something that will ground you in the present moment and help you to have more compassion for yourself and for the world around you. But the key is that in those sorts of dark nights of the soul where you feel disconnected from
Yeah.
everyone and everything, most importantly, your spiritual connections, your whatever your conception of the divine is, or God, that you have some way to try to reconnect to others and to yourself and to higher power, whatever you want to call that, in a meaningful way, to maybe have some faith, hope, and love. I guess would be key practices that will not make it easy, but make it easier.
Understood. Agree. And I'd say that the picture is so clarifying because I hear about the like the micro stabilizers, right? Like the
Mhm,
tiny anchors that
mhm,
um kind of don't fix the kind of ocean thing, but it keep the boat from what to say, capsizing at night, right? So
mhm,
which redefines success as safety and not
mhm.
speed, right? So what do you think on this?
Well, yeah, those micro routines are so important, like setting an alarm, like going to bed at the same time, getting up at the same time, even though it's hard, forcing yourself into some kind of getting your physical body into some kind of routine so you aren't so physically dysregulated, which
Yeah.
adds to the emotional dysregulation, because those two things, very, very strong mind body connection. So if you can focus on taking care of your body a little bit first,
Hmm.
um, then you're in a little bit better space to get your mind straightened out.
Okay. Okay. So also, though, like I would love to talk about the trauma, truth, and also about work of grieving, right? So, like
Mhm.
you have said that the psychedelic, within careful and the therapeutic context, like which has helped you grieve grieved more efficiently. So,
Mhm.
from there, if you can share, like what changed and like how you related to your pain, right? If you can
Yeah.
share, yeah.
And of course, when we're talking about psychedelics, we need to make sure that we're talking about you're doing it in a legal and safe setting and container, that you aren't just throwing substances into your body, but you have a professional guide, someone who can really facilitate this experience for you. You're in compliance with your local laws,
Yeah.
whatever they may be, and that you're very careful that there are a lot of medical conditions that would preclude people, mental and psychological conditions. Huge caveats here. There's a long list of them. I won't go through all of them, but they're very real, and there are real dangers with these substances. But
Mm.
for those who feel called to them, for whom it's appropriate,
Yeah.
they can accelerate the healing process in a way that's quite unexpected. That you can do many decades of psychotherapeutic work in a
Mm.
short psychedelic experience that can move you through that trauma much more rapidly and efficiently. In my first therapeutic session, I would say I got more spiritual insight from that one journey than I did from even 20 years in monastic life.
Mm.
It re it before psychedelics, I would say I believed, I had this faith that the divine was everywhere and in everyone and in everything. But afterwards, I knew it. I'd experienced it. It was an internal knowing of of feeling and seeing and experiencing yourself as a fractal piece of the divine, and seeing that in everything around you. And
Mm.
that revelatory sort of expansion of consciousness can bust you through um, some of this grief when it's done appropriately in the right setting with the right mindset and with the right substance. These things have tremendous power to um, help you uh, see life from a whole new perspective, and maybe bust you out of your I would say addicted ways of thinking, the mental loops that you're stuck in, and try to give you a little breather space so that you can kind of move forward with a little bit more grace and dignity.
Mm. Understood. Lovely. So, like, for those who are listening, right? Like, what would you say? I mean, what are the non-negotiables around safety, integration, and also about the support that made that difference
Mhm.
between a profound experience and also about the destabilizing one as well? So, what
Mhm.
do you say? Yeah.
Well, there's a sort of mantra in
Mm.
the psychedelic world of there's three words, and it's called set,
Mm.
setting, and substance. So set, setting, and substance. And what that means is set means what's the mindset that you're going into it with? Have you prepared yourself for this experience?
Yeah.
Have you done some deep contemplative work? Hopefully, you're doing it with a therapist, and that you've really. Psychedelics are strange; they're tricky, but you tend to get what you play for, just never the way you expect. And so, one of the things is to have a clear intention of why you're doing it and what you
Mm.
want to get out of it, hopefully, and that will anchor you in the experience. I recommend people almost create an intention for themselves, and they try to get to like 5 words or less, some really clear, simple
Mm.
intention that you can hold and remember. Maybe write it down before your experience. Have it maybe posted on a big post-it note or write it on a whiteboard, whatever. But have it in front of you to kind of anchor the experience. So you really have a clear goal in mind, even though that goal, you need to hold it loosely, of course.
Yeah.
But then, so you've really done proper preparation to work up to this experience. And that could be journaling, it can be working with your therapist. There's a lot of different modalities, but
Yeah.
essentially make sure you're not just doing it recreationally or doing it frivolously. And then the other part is the setting. So setting, substance. So the setting is extremely important. Where are you doing it? What's the contain? We call it the container that's holding you. So
Mm.
you want all the variables around you to be controlled as much as possible. The temperature, the sound, the noise, the music. So you want to make it to the extent that you're comfortable. What would make it a sacred and safe and holy space for you to really tap into this deeper way of knowing, of consciousness? And then the last, of course, is the substance. Is it sourced safely? What's the dose? What are you taking? How much are you taking? And making sure that you have all the proper safety precautions in place to make sure that if you do have an adverse reaction, you've got caregivers there who can help you with that.
Lovely. I mean, I really appreciate the emphasis on the container because the uh, the licensed clinicians, where I mean, wherever applicable, right? So like legal and ethical guardrails, and also about the structured integration as well. So the the journey is not a kind of, I would say, ceremony, but uh, it's what you practice after the ceremony, right? And
Mhm.
how do I say, like the experiences with the psychedelics carry a legal and the medical risk, which
Mhm.
also, I mean, depending on where you live, but always follow the law, consult
Yes.
qualified professionals, and also about the prioritizing safety and integration, which is also very, very important. So dear listeners, please remember these points as well. And thank you so much, Dov, for sharing this. It is very, very, very important as well. Uh, Going towards the burnout, because right, which I feel, I mean, these days, right, we often hear this term burnout, and somehow I feel like we have taken this as a kind of badge of honor for us, right? Okay, what happened now? It's burnout, we have to do it, like this kind of thing we are doing, right? But that's a very popular narrative, that burnout is just too much of work. And what you have described, like something more, I would say, existential, which is like the moral and the spiritual exhaustion, right? So uh, from that perspective, I mean, if you can share, like, where do you draw the line between uh, needing rest and also needing to rebuild your inner architecture? So what do you have to say on this?
Yeah, well, it's so important. So it taking care of your soul essentially is like what when it's reconnecting to your higher self, if you will, and finding that connection, whatever that means for you. And these are ineffable terms that we're using. They're very hard to describe, but
Mhm.
essentially, you're it's more than just burnout. It's this sort of existential
Yeah.
maybe despair or dread or this feeling of hopelessness or being
Mhm.
lost and not being able to find your way forward. Um, and they can accelerate the healing process when done
Mhm.
properly.
And like,
And we have a great deal of research on this. So there's 200 academic institutions studying
okay.
psychedelics around the world, including, the Imperial College of London did a really important study with people at end of life,
Mhm.
people who were struggling with cancer diagnosis, and they gave them a high dose psilocybin experience, and they found that they all of the
Yeah.
participants reported an 80% immediate reduction in their symptoms, and those depressive for those who survived those depressive symptoms, the alleviation that lasted for up to 4 years. They can measure it beyond that single dose psilocybin experience.
Amazing, amazing. Look, I mean, that's a great part that you shared. And so, suppose for the listeners' perspective, if I'm saying, like, if a listener suspects that they are just beyond, like, take a weekend off, so what will be a first um, concrete action that honors the severity without blowing up their life overnight? What do you have to say on this?
I'm so, could you repeat the question?
I'm saying, like, for any listeners who feel that they are beyond kind of weekend off, right? So for them,
Yeah.
what will be the first thing, or maybe the most important part that that honors the severity without blowing up everything at night, or maybe immediately, kind of.
Well, I mean, the first thing is get professional help. Like
Mhm.
there's seek out a licensed mental therapist
Mhm.
or to find someone you talk. Talk therapy is a good place to start, but then also building in some sort of what I found very helpful was a gratitude practice
Yeah.
in the morning and the evening, a journaling practice where you say, okay, instead of ruminating on everything that's wrong, what can you ruminate on what's right?
Mhm.
What are the blessings that you have, the family, the friends, your health, if that's not the thing that's troubling you, a beautiful sunshine.
Mhm.
What little things can you find in your day to be grateful for rather than constantly ruminating on everything that's wrong with my
Mhm.
life? So you can find some hope to move forward. But it's not an easy process, and it takes time. It takes a lot of inner work, but finding that daily meditation makes a big difference, and a daily spiritual practice of some sort, whatever that means for you.
Gotcha. So, like, I mean, that's a kind of compassionate middle path, right? I mean,
Mhm.
stabilize the rhythms, like all the food, sleep, movement, and then renegotiate the story that you are living. So, yeah, definitely. And also, if you talk about the uh, forgiveness, right? Like, you also talk about finding a room for forgiveness and the boundaries as well, right? So, how do you learn to hold the compassion for people who harmed you without, I mean, without minimizing the harm or kind of re-exposing yourself to it?
Well, there's a couple things. The first thing is there's a cliche, of course, which is that
Mm,
hurt people hurt people.
yeah.
So to realize that people who are wounding you, it's because they themselves have been wounded,
Mm,
that they're acting out there. That a good friend of mine, Richard Rohr, often says, he's a Franciscan friar, says, if we don't transform our pain,
mm,
we are destined to transmit it, especially to those that we love most. And so what you're seeing is a sort of causal chain of pain that someone was wounded, they didn't process it properly. Now that's being inflicted on you. But the responsibility then is to break that causal chain of pain. So you aren't then creating that trauma isn't then being passed on to the people that you love unconsciously. Because people aren't consciously trying to do these things. They tend to be unconscious. Some people there are some really evil people in the world who are genuinely malicious, to be sure. But a lot of our trauma comes through misunderstandings and through miscommunication and through woundedness, essentially,
mm,
and that we're acting that out around us. And then to see how you wounded others around you, to see that, you know, um, Christianity has many flaws, and I won't defend it for all of its problems, but it got one thing right, which was this idea that we're all broken, essentially, that we all have what we used to call it original sin, and sin is a loaded term these days because it gets weaponized. But nonetheless, it had some deep spiritual truth. It's like, oh, you're broken, the people around you are broken, and the only way forward is to forgive the brokenness.
yeah, got it. So, what do you say? I mean, what kind of practices you would say, like, that helped you to say a kind of no that protected your nervous system and dignity?
Yeah. Well, again, I go back to some sort of contemplative practice, some sort of contemplation, some sort of meditation
Okay.
that allows you, because it actually helps reset your nervous system and brings it back to a healthier baseline. So you
Mm,
aren't, it's a natural, it's free, everyone can do it. And when you have that, if you can find that anchoring daily practice, it really does open up, um, you know, it's very hard, and I think self-forgiveness is maybe even the hardest thing for many people,
mm,
that is to be able to forgive yourself for the mistakes that you've made, and and it and that's where, again, I some connection to something higher than yourself is really important in that process,
mm,
so that you aren't stuck in your own isolated bubble of narcissistic, nihilistic despair.
understood. Beautiful. Like, forgiveness as a kind of release of your burden and not free, not a kind of free pass for theirs,
Yeah.
right? So, boundaries don't shrink love, but they give it honest shape. So that's a great one. And also, while we're discussing about this, would love to also take a kind of challenging angle as well, right? So, uh, some people think or they say that it's really inspiring, but I'm too far. I'm too far gone. So what would you say to them? To the part of them that believes healing is for other people, not for me. It's kind of
Well, if you believe you can't be healed, then you won't be. So it's if you have that negative mindset, if you convince yourself of it, it will probably be true.
yeah.
But if you can convince yourself of the opposite and say, well, actually, people have suffered worse than I have. There's people who've gone through. You look at people like Viktor Frankl,
Hmm.
a famous author who survived the Holocaust. He has a really great book called "The Man's Search for Meaning," which I
Hmm.
highly recommend. And it's a good reminder of someone who say, even someone who went through the horrors of the Holocaust
Hmm.
in a Nazi concentration camp, was able to find forgiveness, was able to find release.
Mm.
And part of it is maybe the bigger point to your question is as Nietzsche laid out, he said, he who has a why
Mm.
can endure any how or what. So what you're enduring can be endured if you have a why. Why? What am I working forward towards?
Mhm.
What's that goal? And, um, and might be doing it for your children. You might be doing it for your spouse. You might be doing
Mhm.
it for your parents. There's some higher someone or something other than yourself
Yeah.
that says, I need to do this so I can not just make my life better, but I can make the lives of the people around me better
Mm.
so that everybody wins in the long run.
Okay. Okay. Got it. So, thank you so much for sharing that, and we'll try to keep it more kind of rapid fire, right? Okay. So, I'll just ask you like 3 to 4 areas. If you can share like a very short one, like maybe in a 2 words also, or in a single piece as well. So, uh, a belief that you retired that gave you immediate relief.
A belief that gave me immediate relief
Yeah.
that I was loved, that there was love in the universe, and that the universe is ultimately benevolent, that there is some higher than myself
Mm.
that I can surrender to, that I can trust,
Yeah.
that loves me, and that love can is inside of me, and that love can flow out of me into the world, to make my life better and the world around me better.
Amazing. One relationship that changed your recovery trajectory.
I'm sorry, ask the question again.
One relationship that changed your whole recovery trajectory.
One relationship. Well, I had a good mentor and a good friend by the name of Richard Rohr, who was a father figure to me, who and still is, and who really showed me acceptance and love and compassion during
Mm.
my difficult struggles, and was able to see me as I was and all my flaws and still love me, and to have even one person be able to love you even in your mess, um, that's a huge gift. That just even one connection to one person can pull you out and give you hope.
So, a practice that keep especially you on your worst days.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say the practice on my worst
Yeah.
days.
Yeah.
Um, oof, well, it wasn't easy, right? The worst days are are pretty bad. But nonetheless, I would say that the hope that there's something better possible on the other side of all of this, that that in that suffering is an inevitable and natural part of life. We're all going to go through at some point
Mm.
a dark night of our soul. It's inevitable. And there's a really good tool I found. There's a psychological tool called the Enneagram, which maybe some of your folks have heard of. If not, the Enneagram is a personality typology system that's very powerful and very useful.
Mm.
I won't go into all the details of it right now, but essentially it helps understand what your ego structure is and
Okay.
what the source of your suffering really is. Like, what is the deepest wound inside of you
Mm.
that's creating all of this pain, and offers a pathway forward to help healing it.
Exactly. And one sentence that you wish someone had told you at the beginning.
At the beginning. Um, One sentence I wish I had known. Um, well, that there is a better future possible. Like, this isn't the end of the story.
Mm.
This is not the end of your story. Great things are still possible. Beautiful things are still possible. Love is still possible. And that's out there, but you're going to have to get up off the floor and make it happen for yourself, because no one's going to fix this problem for you. It's the inner work that you have to take, this journey into your suffering, and to realize that a lot of this suffering is in fact self-created. Like, you are creating this problem for yourself, even though external circumstances may be difficult. It's your reaction to them that's causing the suffering as much as the actual circumstances around you.
Yeah, I agree because great things takes time, and it is possible. It's not impossible kind of thing, because impossible is only having the possible section into the impossible, right? So great thing takes time, but it is totally possible. So no, thank you so much for bringing the hard truth and the real tenderness to a topic to that too often gets treated like a kind of slogan thing. And
Hmm.
I'd say that your story reminds us that healing is neither a kind of linear or not lonely. It's a kind of layered and relational and absolutely possible, like I mentioned. So, for anyone who's listening uh, in dark room, here's the three-step, like I'd say, low friction plan that you can start today. Like, name it once a day, maybe for 2 minutes. Like, write one sentence about how you actually feel. No poetry required. Truth calms the body, right? So schedule for support, maybe for 5 10 minutes. Book an appointment with a licensed therapist or the trauma informed counselor. Add one weekly group or maybe the peer check in, but it on your calendar now. So, and also about a kind of micro practice, a short walk, breathe ladder, right? Inhale, exhale, repeat it for 10 times, or kind of texting one trusted friend, checking in, right? Keep it small enough that you will you will do it on your worst day as well, right? So if this conversation has helped you, dear listeners, share it with someone who might need a hand on the doorknob, right? And do follow Do to learn more about the trauma informed healing and the thoughtful integrations as well. And Do, if someone wants to connect with you, what would be the great medium to connect?
Yeah, you can find me on my website, which is my name, DougLynham.com. That's DougLyn as in Nicholas, AM as in Michael, DougLynham.com. And all my social media handles are also my name, Doug Lynham.
Amazing. So, dear listeners, what I'll do is I'll put all the links and the details into the show notes for your easy reference so that you can easily reach out to Do. And with this hope, until next time, this is your host, Avik, and this is Healthy Mind, Healthy Life. Until next time, go gently, hold your boundaries, and remember that this is a door, even if you can't see it yet. So, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Avik.
Amazing, Do. It's a great conversation.
Thank you. The good interview. You asked great questions.
Thank you, thank you. It's a very a great topic, I'd say, and a lot of people would love to know more about these topics, right? So, and so also I tried, you know, I was live also while I was having a conversation. So I was live on Substack. So I'll just show my as well. So. Uh, I was on live as well.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, yeah,
Fantastic.
yes, yeah. So I mean, and I believe these discussions are much more important, right? So, I mean, uh, to normalize things to make people understand that, like as you mentioned, possible, right? It's nothing is impossible. It is quite possible until and unless we're thinking about it or thinking with a positive note and all. So, yeah, that's great, right?
Wonderful. Great. So, are we upload complete? Looks like we've got the
Yes,
recording. Is
completely.
there
Yeah.
anything?
It's
Okay.
all done. We'll release it and we'll share it with you. Yeah.
Fabulous.
Perfect. Great. Thank you so much. Yeah. Have a great day ahead and see you soon again.
You too, Avik.
Yeah.
Okay. Be well. Take care.
Take care. Thank you everyone for joining. And this was with Doll Inman, and the episode will be released in next 2 days, and it will be on YouTube and Substack and on Instagram as well. Thank you so much for joining, and we'll try to keep more live sessions like this. So just started today, and yeah, thank you so much for joining, and see you soon again. Yeah, have a great day ahead.